Hey there, welcome back to this extra special chat style that we're doing today at Week in Decadent. It's just going to be me for at least right now. Shannon might join us, but we're going to be talking about battle tactics. We opted to do this rather than just simply miss another week. Uh, Everyone's busy. I'm going to a wedding, not my own, but going to a wedding here over the weekend, so I'm not going to be available to do any battle reports, which is a shame. I'm excited to do more games in the new GHB. But that said, I'm excited to talk about kind of my hot takes personally on the winners and losers for battle tactics in this 2023-2024 GHB. So let's get this party started. How am I rating this? I've kind of got these simple icons: the plus sign, the negative sign, and the X. And then the star will indicate if it could be reasonably done in the first turn on all battle plans. So easy to complete. That we're just talking like complementary to what the army wants to do. Um, there's almost no opponent interaction. While that might not be the best game design, it is kind of where we're at. Whenever you're trying to complete these battle tactics, if somebody can easily just swat it out, that's going to be a big problem for your ability to score in games. Difficult to complete. We're just talking like, oh, achievable, but you got to set it up. You got to work for it. It's not free money. It's not stand in the back of the battlefield more than 30 inches from everybody and uh, you know, casting a spell. That's going to be like, spoiler alert, the go-to one thing that everyone can do. And very hard is stuff that like is contrary to what the army wants to do. Even if they could theoretically do the battle tactic, I'm still going to mark it with a red X if it's making you do things that the army's play style doesn't like lean into. So comparing the seasons, I just wanted to kind of talk about. Everyone is probably that's played a game is probably aware that it's harder. These battle tactics are harder, and scoring them is harder. And getting 5 battle tactics in all your games, that's hard. I certainly struggled with it. I've been playing Corn a lot, and I've been feeling it. Like I thought that Corn was going to be awesome. They have easy battle tactics, and I was mistaken. I was not right. Maybe I just need to get good, but certainly I struggled with it. So hopefully this kind of like casts some stuff into relief. Now these are general ratings. Obviously, when we get into the individual armies here pretty quickly, we're looking at um, uh, more refined looks at what's possible. There's going to be greens on this list, but like when I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, can every army do this on every battle plan? Like there's no greens in my opinion. Derek, I think they are easier. Oh man, well you're better at Warhammer than I am, Derek. Easier to plan them out sequentially for my army, that is. I'm curious what your army is, Derek, because there are some that are living a lot better life, I think, than others. But anyway, you can see that gaining momentum, desecrate their lands. That was often an easy one in cutting maneuver. Just saw people open up with some of these. People like to hold on to desecrate because it was so easy, and then you can kind of see it in the rating there. OBR Skaven Zinch. Skaven, man, if you're like knocking it out with 5 on Skaven every time, I'm jealous. I think OBR has the best opener in the game, but we'll get there. We'll talk about it. Magical dominance is the one that I think that every single army can do at the beginning, either through allies or through regiments of renown. For people like Khorne, you can always get there, but just note that even the easiest battle tactic, where you can deploy outside of 30 and cast a spell in a corner, basically just Mystic Shield in the corner, still has like an 8.3% chance of failure, like flat out. So it's tough. The 3 priest tax, it's true, but on Skaven, I've rolled that one like too many times, trying to just pray that specific battle tactic. So um, maybe I just need to remember to roll 6s. So anyway, uh, so the reprisal, that's something that not everyone can do easily. Not everyone has access to warlords, which that kind of like synergizes with. You can still have your pick general and then have a warlord die, and then kill the unit that killed your warlord, or vice versa. The endless expropriation, I think only one faction I marked with anything other than a red X, because that is an awful battle tactic. I wait for the reroll Great Plague first. I know, but if I open up with a 1, which that's a 16.6% chance, I think 16.6, then you don't get the Great Plague and you automatically fail your battle tactic. So it's actually more likely to fail that Skaven battle tactic than it is to cast a Mystic Shield corner, because you're only getting it on 1d6 and 1 is 1 in 6 chances. So anyway, that's my hot take on that. We'll get to Skaven. We'll get to all the armies. I've pre-marked these, so we're not going to be waiting for me to read through them. I'm not going to read every single one. I'm just going to hit the highlights, and then if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. But you can just see, you can pause the video if you're checking this out as a VOD, and say, what did this guy think about my faction and my battle tactics? And while I play a lot of factions, I am not a master at all the factions. This isn't like Caleb Walters going through each like level of all the factions, saying, "Oh, these are the tricks and the fancy things that I do to do my battle tactics." This is just me saying, I think my familiarity with the armies is probably going to reflect more what I expect your average player to go for when they first look at stuff. I do get to play a lot though. I mean, I wait for the Great Plague before you pick the tactic. Oh yeah, that's the big brain move, Derek. You're right that that's an easy one though. Once you get that Great Plague, rerolling like 1-to-1 is way less likely. So one of the important things is looking at the territories on these GHB tactics, in my opinion. Two of the tactics are going to come up a lot as far as like which armies are haves and haves not with movement, because movement's really important. You have 3 potential turn 1 tactics that have very little interaction with your opponent on 3 of the battle plans. You have 2 potential ones on 4 battle plans, and then 4 more of the battle plans have just cast in the corner. As far as like what's easy, because you have to be like the surround the invaders. That one requires you pick 3 units on the board, so you can't deep strike them. The turn that you pick the tactic, you have to be wholly outside of your own territory with 2 of those units, and they have to be wholly within 6 inches of 3 different board edges. And it's harder than it sounds like, at least in my experience. Patrick, Peanut Gallery over here, says there's a lot of text on one slide. I know. There's going to be a lot of text on these slides. Fortunately, I'm not going to read it out. It'll be if people want to like read and see like why does this faction have more or easier battle tactics, then you'll be able to do that. But yeah, I'm not going to be reading it out. So it's real tough. Let's see the one down here. Two tactics that has like the long deployment, but to just not stretch board edge to board edge. I think that one's still pretty tough, even though it's easy to just step outside to get more than half of your units for intimidate the invaders. Get more than half of your units wholly outside of your own territory. You're kind of having to go all the way to one side of the board or split your forces, and I, personal opinion, think that's not like what you want to be doing, even if it's easy. Just because you can do it doesn't like, what's the Jurassic Park quote? You spend so much time saying if we could, but you never asked to say should I just run my whole army in 2 different directions? I don't think so, but maybe everyone else just does that and then wins on that particular battle plan. So anyway, that's the quick look at like how many of these on average a lot of armies have access to, as far as like I can walk into this mission and just know, regardless of what faction I'm at, how many potential turn 1 tactics I have. So let's get into it, starting with Dardos of Cain. I just went through Wikipedia, copied the factions, and voila. It sounds like it's starting to rain, so if you hear that, apologies. So Dardos of Cain, you'll note at the top right, I've got the number of good tactics. Good tactics are just anything marked with green, so that it doesn't require a lot. Like I said, just not super hard to complete. And then the ones marked with a star are the ones that I think that they can do turn 1. And you'll note that magical dominance is often marked with very few exceptions, with a dash, and that's because on the bottom of the turn, they can run or get a wizard within 30 of your guy in the corner, and all of a sudden you're forced to deal with the fact that they can just primal magic dice my high cast down. Or if you're playing Seraphon, then they don't have to do anything. They just have board wide unbinds. It's tough. So Cruel Delights, that's like really easy. You just get your Kinnerai, and then one of them, it's just like an auto to get the Fire and Fade. You come down within range, and then you just shoot with them. And then after they're done shooting, they get to do their move, and that's just free money. If you're able to do that in their backfield, you can then follow up with that with Tide of Blades, where you just have 2 or more units from your starting army wholly within their territory. So that's pretty handy. It's nice for Doc in that they can just force you to go back and get units that aren't actually going to be doing any damage to you, uh, just to stop the points. And so you're forced to say, am I going to go for their point scoring on the battle tactics, or am I going to deal with the fact that they've got an entire like 1800 points, 1900 points of army that's going to be moving up on the primaries? So they've got 5 good tactics that I think that you can get, and 2 of them are achievable turn 1, depending on, Tide of Blades. You can just deep strike those Kinnerai if they don't screen you off. I think it's they're in a good spot. I don't know about we're not talking like army power, but as far as battle tactics go, Daughters of Cain looking pretty good right now. Fire Slayers, on the other hand, looking tough in my opinion. Intimidate the Invaders, getting all of your stuff wholly outside your territory is difficult, just because you're slow. Any army that's got 4-inch move everywhere is in a hard spot, in my opinion. If the opponent takes the turn, top of turn, and just blocks you in, they kind of, even on one of the easy battle tactics, or excuse me, battle plans, where you can just step outside of your territory, they can kind of block you in and prevent you from doing that, and maybe force you into charging up into stuff that more things than you'd originally planned or really wanted to. They do have Seize by Force, and that's at least nice for them, where they can take, when they deploy, less than all of their objectives. And so if you counter deploy, if their opponent counter deploys taking more objectives than them, then all they need to do is, get enough primary, get 3. Let's say there's 2 objectives in your territory. The opponent takes 2, you only deploy on 1. Then on your turn, you take 3. You can do that at the top of the turn, especially since you have deep strikers. With I think the Rune Smiter can deep strike a unit. So at least they have that. That deep strike really helps out. Yeah, Ignominious Death, Patrick. It's my favorite, one of my favorite battle tactics, but it is absolute garbage. So they've got a few that they can do with the star, but only one of them they can do without a lot of interaction from the opponent. Idneth Deepkin, they ended up having 4 good tactics. Assassins of the High Tide. That's you should get that on the turn that you're going in for your High Tide ability. So I consider that easy. Your move is so high. I think eels are going to be particularly helpful, and sharks also with their high moves. Intimidate the invaders and surround and destroy. When the eels are as fast as they are, and the sharks as fast as they are, then and the king, like you've just got a lot of speed in addition to a teleport. So your ability to have 2 good green tactics and 4 overall green tactics, I think Idneth are going to be doing all right. Because remember, just because things are yellow doesn't mean you can't do them. It just means that it's not free money. You can't just show up and get it without having to try. So good for Idneth. Caradron Overlords, I think it should be no surprise that they have, I think, out of everybody, the best overall stats as far as my accounting of the good tactics, and then the ones that they complete without turn 1 without any interaction. Assuming they survive until the High Tide turn. That's true, but I think that's a problem with the army design and not a problem with like the battle tactics, because I think that you could look at these armies separately for the battle tactics, and then your rankings are going to vary way differently. Like I don't think Caradron Overlords are wrecking the tables. I know Gavin went like 3-2 over the weekend, with a KO list. Just because he has easy battle tactics doesn't mean that he's got access to army compositions that make the army competitive. It just means that if they're struggling, it's probably not because of their access to good battle tactics. Same thing with Idneth. I think Idneth are a little bit too glass cannony, and that's why you don't see them performing super well. They've got one gimmick, and if you know that gimmick, you can play around it. But if they, their access to battle tactics isn't as bad as Fire Slayers. So moving on to Lumineth, this is one of the few factions I think have zero really good opening battle tactics. They want to castle up, and that means that intimidate the invaders and surround and destroy is not great. They're elite, so they don't have a ton of units to do the surround and destroy with. Surely I know that they do. You could do 2 hurricanes, you can run them up, but is that what you want to be doing? Do you want to be unpacking your castle turn 1, moving away from your 5-up board? No, you don't. Do you want to be casting just one spell and then not letting them have access to your unbinds? I don't think that you do. Which is why I marked that as a yellow rather than as a green. Not because they can't do it, but because it's not what they want to be doing. And I think that Lumineth Realm Lords are in an especially difficult spot. Same thing with Hishmade Manifest. They don't want to just be casting 2 endless spells outside of unbind range. I think it's easier than magical dominance for them, but I don't think it's what they want to do. And I think that they're going to be they will be having trouble getting a battle tactic turn 1. We'll see. Lore Seeker is good for surround. It's true. It's true. Lore Seeker is good for surround. They've got the ability to complete these. That's why it's a yellow. But I think that the most effective Lumineth builds tend to just be a castle, and the battle tactics this season do not play well for castles. And speed of Hish. Yeah, but then again, Derek, I think that they don't want to be unpacking their castle top of 1, bottom of 1. They want to be doing that after they hit you with a bunch of archer shots and mortal wounds, and then unpacking around like turn 3. At least that's how Derek plays, and that's the Lumineth player I know the best. Anyway, I think Lumineth are in a tough spot, but time will tell, right? Seraphon Starborn. Not only do they do 10 trillion mortal wounds, but they also have good battle tactics, and they have 2 options on turn 1. Magical Mayhem, they've got the mortal wound output on spells to pick somebody up. Celestial Obliteration is a worse version of Magical Mayhem since you have to pick the enemy unit, but nonetheless, I think that they can do both of those really easily. They can easily do Magical Dominance by putting a Slan back in a corner, but I think that they don't want to be casting 1 spell, or they don't want to be casting less than the maximum number because they get those Celestial Conjuration points from casting and unbinding. So I would mark that as something that they can do easily, but they have got 5 good tactics. They have teleports for intimidate and surround. They can set themselves up really well for that. Leading into the Maelstrom isn't super difficult. They're going to be summoning on battle line units. They're going to be doing really well, and you can see that in the tournament, like the early stuff that's been coming out. Seraphon has been hitting the 4-1s pretty reliably, and I think this is part of their success, though another big part of that is just a trillion mortal wounds. Moving on to the Coalesce side of things, there's a reason I think also that you don't see these guys ruling the top tables is that they don't have as many free money battle tactics. I did mark Magical Dominance as being a really good one for them because I don't think that they are leaning on the spells quite the same way that Starborn are. So it's not as big a price for them to pay to have somebody hanging back and casting something. I know that they have some pre-game move stuff, and so I marked Led into the Maelstrom as being a pretty easy one. I don't think they can do it turn 1, but they can certainly make that easy because they're going to have Carnosaurs, and Carnosaurs, while they're not the most resilient, they are going to get upfield, get some charges off, and they don't do a trillion damage, so they're not going to just lift everything that they get into. I think that you will be able to end the turn with one of your battle line or heroes still in combat. Aside from that, I don't think that they have anything that they can do aside from cold-blooded resilience, just because They're really tough, and I think that they can get that one without a lot of interaction with the opponent. But aside from that, I think they got to work for it. You just got to work for your battle tactics with Coalesced, and why would you do that when you can just hang back in your castle and do a trillion damage and still get your battle tactics with Starborn? Stormcast. This is my hot take. I think I marked them as pretty much the worst on battle tactics. Certainly they can get five. I'm not saying that they can't, and I think you'll find plenty of Stormcast players getting five battle tactics. It's just like I said, they're gonna have to work for it. They gotta set it up. They gotta go in and do the work to get the points. So don't think that if you see this, oh, I don't think that's the case. I just think that it's difficult for them. I picked Surround and Destroy as being a potential because they've got some fast units. They have the Translocate, and if you're taking the rerollable on the Lord Celestant, you're on a rerollable 2-up on that. Um, I would consider that pretty reliable. So other than that, led into the Maelstrom, they're going to have lots of heroes. They're going to have lots of battle line units. I think they'll be able to do that one. But, you know, I don't think that they have great casting. Cast like you can put your guy in the corner, but if you get given the bottom of one, they can get in there and unbind you, which is tough. Um, and all of their book tactics are hot trash. So they're really suffering from their lack of access to good book tactics, in my opinion. Like I said, they will still perform, but they're hoofing it as far as the points go. Sylvaneth, they're in a great spot. Five good tactics. Eradicate trespassers is just going to come up. Um, the intimidate invaders, they have teleport. They can just take 2 units that just teleport and do it. You put them on the board, you put them in the corners, you teleport them up, and then you can teleport them back. It's even better because they don't have to assist. Um, so Surround and Destroy is just free money as long as you take your 2 Revenant units. Led into the Maelstrom, they're going to be doing that eventually. As they come into your tree castle, you will have the opportunity to charge the battle line unit and with like your Durthr or something. Durthr's going to kill what he gets into, but just make sure that you're within 3 of something at the end of that. So Sylvaneth, good spot. I have them as 5, but I only see 4 green marks. Maybe I made a boo boo there. We're gonna back that out after I accidentally mark them a little bit better, but I think you'll still be able to get 5 without a ton of work. All right, next, Beasts of Chaos. So we're out of order. We're into Beasts of Chaos. I think that they're in a good spot on battle tactics. Magical dominance isn't too tough for them because you'll always be starting probably with a shaman on the field. Somebody will start on the field. Just because if you have your bull hero, you want to do the 7-inch charge thing, you're going to have somebody out there, and at that point, you might as well put down a Grape Ray. If you want to take a shot at magical dominance, Intimidate Invaders is absolutely free money for Beasts of Chaos. You can do that turn 1. I don't know if you want to do that turn 1. Usually, I like to see Beast players wait until the second turn to really unpack everything from the board edges, because it leaves your opponents having to scrounge a little bit for battle tactics turn 1s and 2 when there's nothing on the field. But in this GHB where killing isn't as important, maybe it actually makes it easier. Not sure. I'd have to play some games against BOC to really know. But Rampaging Beast Herd, great easy battle tactic, and Reduced to Savagery. Not free money, but I think that some point in the game you will be able to get Reduced to Savagery. So Beasts, decent spot. Blades of Corn, also decent. They got 4 with 1 easy one. I marked Magical Dominance with an X. I know that there's been people playing Bellicor in Blades of Corn, and they've been liking it. My personal experience is that that is good money after bad. Like, Corn suffers for damage, and if you're taking like almost 400 points in a not really combat oriented tech piece and an army that is full of tech, I end up running out of steam. If you take Bellicor and put him in the corner, you can turn that into something that's possible, but I don't think that you're going to be winning games with the with that like super reliably. And I don't think we've seen a 5-0 Corn, particularly not with Bellicor. Now, if you're Owen Jackson and have tons and tons of experience with playing Age of Sigmar, I'm sure it will work for you, but I prefer higher damage lists for my Blades of Corn. It makes some of their book tactics easier, in my opinion. And if I can't target it with Murder Lust, I don't even want it. It's kind of my hot take on Blades of Corn. But their book tactics, you don't have any bad book tactics, but you don't have a ton of easy ones. We've been playing a lot of the Corn here in our little group, and everybody has been complaining a little bit on like, Corn feels pretty good, but it is difficult. Like Surround and Destroy, you have to build into. You have to take a couple units of Claws of Karnak, get your 6-inch pregame move, and then run them outside the your territory on the maps that have those extremely large territories. So maybe I just need practice. Maybe I just need to get good with Corn, but I regularly drop the battle tactic in a lot of my games. Zinch, in a good spot. They can do magical dominance, but they do not want to cast just one spell, and they don't want to put their entire castle like backboarded. At least in my experience. Magical mayhem isn't too difficult as far as like what they can complete. Surround and destroy. I For at least the lists I build, I always put a couple of untamed beasts, and that makes surround and destroy a lot easier. I think that aside from surround and destroy, they don't have access to a lot of great turn ones, especially top of ones, but they do have a couple of good book tactics, and somehow I've marked them 5 as well when I only see 4. Um, I have Tides of Anarchy and Call for Change. You know, you could flip those if you're doing Guild of Summoners. I know that's a popular one. I personally prefer uh, the Host Arcanum for the auto unbind and the ability to summon in something other than just Lords of Change. I like the flexibility of putting down blues, and I think that in anything other than the chicken summoning subfaction, Tides of Anarchy is easier than Call for Change. Uh, Otherwise, I'd flip those if you're summoning just Lords of Change, because then Call for Change is free money, uh, but Tides of Anarchy is not. And I would still leave the. I don't know if I would say it's a Call for Change would be a turn 1, because you're not guaranteed to get all the summoning points you need, because there's a lot of counterplay with unbinds right now. It's a great turn 2 tactic for those armies. All right, moving on. Making good time. It's easy when it's just you, right? Need Knights of Slanesh. Did I count this right? I did. 5 good tactics, with 2 of them being completable in the first turn. Uh, Craved Unity. Now that the base tactics don't have interactions a lot with, or at all with objectives, it's nice to have access in your book to an objective-focused tactic. That's a big advantage, in my opinion. Something that you can just do. Um, On this one, you just put a mortal and a demon unit on an objective you don't control. Uh, and it doesn't even need to be outside of your territory. You could even not deploy on an objective and just walk onto it. That's just free. That's just great. Did we get over what you're drinking tonight? I didn't go through it. I just got into it because I didn't want to have this be like a 15-hour stream where I read 1,000 things, Patrick. But I'm drinking a barrel-aged Narwhal Imperial Stout from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Wow, it's pretty heavy. It's 12%, and this one came in a pint. But if you like that barrel-aged flavor, it's still a little bit bitter. So Mason, man in the chair, Mason would actually like it a little bit more. He doesn't like it when they get too sweet, but it does have that barrel-aged sweetness. If you like that, I suggest trying it out if you have access to it. Uh, Justin Minks, let's go cast Mystic Shield in the corner. Yeah, there's not very many armies, I think, Justin, that want to do that turn 1, and that particularly you want to do it at the bottom of one, because if somebody takes the turn and just runs an unbinder up, then they can. Yeah, then you're having to just roll all of your primal dice versus all of their primal dice and just see who gets lucky. And see who's getting lucky isn't like what I would consider a great reliable battle tactic. But you'll see a lot of people trying it, I think. particularly top of one. Top of one, it's not bad. You only have an 8.3% chance of failing it. And then if you throw in primal dice, it's even better, assuming you don't roll. Moving on, Kin of Nurgle. I don't think that they have any great turn one battle tactics outside of magical dominance. Um, fortunately, they don't rely on their spellcasting. So if you just have like the odd spellcaster in your army, you can just put them outside of unbind range and hope that you hope you're given top of one. Which I think that if you're a lot of drops, you will be given top of one because you're slow and people just want to get into you and double turn you, or at least control prio. And going second in this edition is particularly good. They do have some good battle tactics. I don't know what's wrong with my numbers. I know I went back and forth on these a lot, a lot, a lot. Like over the past week, I've been coming back and tweaking and trying to think about it. So apologies for not going through and making sure my numbers matched up with my number of green pluses. They have some pretty bad battle tactics. Sudden domination, like why even spend the ink on it? You know what I mean? Um, Led into the Maelstrom, you're going to have slow heroes. They're going to be charging. Your Lord of Afflictions, and then like some flies, or like sure you can drop those down turn one, but then you're relying on 2 9-inch charges, and that's not the that's not super reliable. But I think that you can do it later turns, and it's not too bad. Um, Intimidate the invaders. I put that as a red because you're so slow that people can kind of block you in, particularly on these many battle plans where the deployment zones, on the 4 battle plans where the deployment zones are just half of the board. That puts you in a difficult spot where you're having to deploy 9 away and then having to walk a minimum of 10 inches if you've got a 25 mil base to get wholly outside of your territory. Maggot Kin, they're going to struggle. Now you could take the Deep Striker, Gutrot Spume is his name, and try and do that. Though, like how much are you giving up to have a half of your army off board and teleporting him in? I don't know. Maybe we'll see people start teching into him so that you have access to an easier turn one battle tactic. At least in Maggot Kin. Skaven, this is for you, Derek. I did Surround and Destroy being an easy one for them turn one because they have access to their gnaw holes. Your ability to move around on the board, in addition to Skitter Leap being a teleport, makes their movement shenanigans are going to be clutch, I think, in early game battle tactics. They're going to like they've got retreat and charge on some of their units. So bait and trap is going to be a good one. Led into the Maelstrom, you're going to have tons of heroes, in my opinion, and at some point you're just going to throw some guys in. And what's nice is that if you activate your hero first, they can simply retreat, and as long as your other battle line unit, just like a 40 clan rats, probably not going to get wiped out. We were talking, Derek. I think that Crescendo of the Disease Choir, that's a great one that you can do turn one. I just don't think that it's reliable enough. And you have to have 3 priests. You have to like really lean into that, and you have to pay at least 100 points for Plague Priest. So that's 300 points just to guarantee a battle tactic. So I did mark that as yellow. You can flame me in the comments, Derek, if you think that I'm crazy. But that's just my hot take. I think that Skaven's lack of good battle tactics is pretty brutal right now. And I think that the army's win rate is going to suffer. I'm glad you agree, man. I really like rats, and so the armies like Khorne and like rats, where I've got more experience. I was really asking myself, am I just looking at this through rosy lenses or with negativity bias? Um, Intimidate invaders. I did put that as yellow for your Skaven players because you're gonna have a big hero castle. Maybe not castle, but you're gonna have a lot of heroes, and they're not real brave heroes. They are super not brave heroes. They do not want to be anywhere near bad guys most of the time, except your big, like your Warbringers. So they're like hanging in the background, and that makes it hard to get more than half of your army wholly outside your territory, especially on those 4 battle plans that have extremely large territories. Moving on to slaves, I think they're in a pretty good spot for easy ones. One that you can do top of one, Surround and Destroy. It's surround and destroy and intimidate invaders are probably going to be some of the most common battle tactics in the new GHB. Maybe magical dominance, but I think that that one's it's a risky gambit. Top of one, magical dominance is great. I don't think I like it as the bottom of one. I keep talking about it. Lust for power, that's another one you can do, but it's reliant on you getting off the chaotic conduit on the top of one, and sure you can draw on power to roll 3d6 and then add dice on top of that, but you know, if you're already an 8.3% chance on just 2d6, let alone rolling 3d6 to get two ones, and then that's even more likely. So I didn't make it free money. Um, but it is something that I've seen people do. Top of one is go for lust for power, and I don't think it's like a wrong choice if you get alphaed really hard and just like you just need one. I would make sure that I've always got a caster with lust for power on them next to it. Like they can cast it on themselves. They don't even have to have a unit nearby. So it's a good one. It's just not a free money one. People are bringing a lot of warp lightning cannons though, so fire is always up. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna look at fire. Pick one enemy monster on the battlefield. You complete this tactic if that unit is destroyed this turn by attacks made with missile weapons by friendly clan Scryer units. Uh, you're not wrong, Derek. That might be a good one. I'm seeing a lot of monsters, a lot of hero monsters in particular. People are like having almost one monster in every list that I see, with the exception of maybe Fire Slayers. I still see a lot of Fire Slayers playing a lot of little dudes. I don't see a ton of Magmadroths. But yeah, the issue is monster. I might put that yellow if I play enough games of Skaven. I certainly have written a lot of lists, Derek, that have a lot of Warp Lightning cannons in it, and I didn't even know people were leaning into it. It must just be kind of the way that the game is going, that people are focusing, at least on the Skaven side, on that range projection. Um, I'm curious to see over time if Thankful stays in people's lists. Access to his like +3 or I think it's +4 if he's standing next to a null hole to cast is huge, even if he doesn't have the Seraphon board wide dispels. Uh, it's really powerful, and when you see people like Tom Guan running like 200 plus zombies, access to the warp fire throwers might end up being like a required like ace in the hole for those specific matchups, because that's like the worst case scenario for warp lightning cannons where you're doing it between 0 and 12 mortal wounds, but it doesn't matter if you're doing it to 200 wounds plus half of that again if they bring stuff back. It's so incentivizing. So it's incentivizing what I already want to do. Yeah, you're right. Like, I want to just be pushing red buttons there. Like my whole life, we've actually got that little hype button in our battle reports. Like, I just can't get the red out. So we already talked about slaves. I think they're in a good spot. They've got some good battle tactics, enthralled to chaos. They've got a lot of speed, and they have a lot of great, strong, tough units, particularly for things like Let Into the Maelstrom. I don't think they have a lot of units, which makes bait and trap a little bit harder. But overall, like I don't hate where slaves are at. Flesh Eater Courts. I'm sad that Shannon wasn't able to make it. He's been doing a lot of testing with different Flesh Eater Courts builds, particularly with these new scrolls that they released in the Dawnbringer book. Oh, let's see here. Let me unmute you, Shannon. And then let me update you. So
Update me on what?
Not update you, but make it so that we can see you. Yeah.
Oh, craziness.
All right. Hopefully everybody can hear Shannon now. Talk again for me.
We'll find out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How's
All
that?
right. It's like you knew. We're on Flesh Eater Courts.
I know. Just got done with surgery. Totally not saving body parts for things. It's fine.
All right. Well, we're like I'm pretty deep into it. I'm at slide 21. It's easy when you're by yourself, right? You're just throwing out your hot takes.
Absolutely.
We can backtrack, and if you want to talk about any of the other ones.
I mean, it sounds like you're on the good army now, so it's fine.
So I threw out my just that you were working on stuff. I haven't even talked about my hot takes. Do you remember I didn't consult with Shannon on any of this. I just picked my picks, and I'm curious. Do you think that my ratings here? So, if you didn't get a chance to review the slides, green is stuff that you can do with
Uh-huh.
almost no interaction with the other person. It's very reliable. You might not necessarily do it turn one. If you can do it turn one, top or bottom, I've marked it with a little star.
Hmm.
Um, and yellow is something that you can do. You just gotta work for it. It's not free money. And then red
Yep.
is something that like it's not easy for the army to do. The army isn't it's doing something the army doesn't want to do, like a castle unpacking. Like castle doesn't want to unpack early. Uh,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
looking at this, what do you think?
So I like it mostly. Um, there's a couple that I'm a little bit that I might disagree with you, but only by like one point of the margin of error, if that
Yeah,
makes
let's do it.
sense,
Yeah,
right?
which one? I'd love to
Absolutely.
change it.
Why don't we let's just go from the top
Yeah,
down, and if we agree, we agree. I've played four games now of this handbook. I did three over the weekend. I just cranked through one day of back to back to back, and it was super fun. It was great. Love this book. The new battle tactics are tough but fair. So I
yeah,
love them. They're fun. But I think it gives me a good idea for where Feck is sitting in some of this. Intimidating invaders, I totally agree. This is what Feck wants, right? Because you don't have to pick things that start on the board, so you can just summon everything on their side and add all those summons in. That's a gimme, right? This
right.
is
It's free money.
I quickly figured out that if I have to go first, like if my opponent makes me go first, this is what I pick because it's what I'm gonna have. So it's your ace in your back pocket for if you're forced to go first, or if you want to go first to set up some good feck alpha. But everything's kind of risky. This is a good one to just have there.
Right.
Yeah, reprisal is awful. That it's I think it's just bad in general, not
Yeah.
not just for feck, but it's bad.
If somebody had a 90-point like warlord, they could throw them out, get them killed, and then like you're like that unit I'm gonna get eventually.
Sure, but
But no,
why
that
pick
doesn't
him as your
exist.
general?
Yeah. Well, you can pick warlords, right? Things that are war masters. People that are generals but aren't your picked
Hmm.
general still count for reprisal. So I think that armies
Sure.
that have access to that and that are units that they want to take, I think I marked
Hmm.
those yellow because at some point if those guys get like nuked, because you're gonna
Right.
lose units, it's Age of Sigmar, things die. Uh,
True.
you at least have access to that battle tactic. I mean, it's not what you
That,
want. You don't. It's not free money. It's not green. But anyway, uh,
but it gives you an option. I see what you're saying, especially with like Soul Blights and whatever, where they've got a lot of fun ones.
right,
War Masters. But yeah, no, reprisal is awful for Feck because your general is going to be a wizard, and you need all the magic you can get in
right.
Flesh Eater Courts. Endless Expropriation. It, it, yeah, it totally depends on if you're playing an opponent that's got this stuff. It's also just not a great one, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you have to kill the dude. Like you can't just dispel the endless spell. Only like Zinch with the birds can
Hmm.
uh, can gain control of it rather than dispelling it. And at that point, it's way less interactive. I marked it yellow for them, but aside from them, I don't know. Maybe I think Slaves to Darkness has like a command trait or a artifact that lets a caster do that, but I don't think that's what you want to take. Especially since, like you said, they have to have the spells and then they have to choose to cast them.
Right. I think the one thing that Feck could have with this, which is going to be based off of your opponent not playing it right, is that we've got a bunch of 3-inch reach. So if they aren't paying attention to how they're bubble wrapping their wizards, you might be able to run your Terrorgeist or your Dragon or whatever in, nom the guy over the things where they're not expecting it, and go. But that doesn't make it a good battle tactic. That just means your opponent's not ready for
Right.
it. Magical dominance.
So I
So
marked
I,
this
I
one
think
yellow because you can do it,
yeah,
but you don't want to be casting just one spell.
correct for sure. And I noticed in our last stream that I was on, we did it wrong.
Oh, did we?
Um, you can fail the spell.
Yeah, you can fail it. Or did you fail it and then we
I
marked it?
failed the first one and was like, there we go.
I thought
So
I
yeah,
unbound it. I guess not.
I don't think so. I think I miscast.
Oh, you know,
Anyway,
pro
doesn't
pro
matter.
pro games.
All in the past. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You don't want to just Mystic Shield in the corner with Flesh of Your Courts. You need their magic. So anytime in which you're just casting one spell, you're probably wasting a magic phase. unless you're really turtled in the corner, and this is your you made me go first. We both turtled in the corner. I'm playing Derek and his Teclis in the opposite corner, and we're just going to stare at each other across the board till someone has to make a move.
Right.
So maybe, but like it is doable, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Magical Mayhem, yeah, not super good. Feck only has 2 damaging spells, unless you're doing Blizzard or something like that, which is really iffy, right? But with Blood Feast and with like the Bone Rain or Bone Storm or whatever it's called, neither of them have reliable damage. So you have to be in a very situational thing where you can do it. And then, of course, you got to cast the spell. Yeah, not great. Bait and Trap. So Bait and Trap, maybe. Could maybe be yellow. Maybe be yellow only because we do have some really good movement, and we do have some really hardy units with like rezzing and reviving stuff.
That's fair, yeah.
Depending on the list you build, Bait and Trap could be a thing. Could be a thing. If you're going like big blocks of horrors, big blocks of flayers, or House Morgaunt with just tons and tons of ghouls, Bait and Trap could totally be a thing.
It's fair.
It depends on what you play. Led into the Maelstrom. So you've got it as green, and I was actually thinking yellow.
Really?
The reason being the last sentence.
Oh, have somebody alive in combat?
Yeah, Feck's not good at that. We generally kill stuff, or we get in trouble.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So the charge part's not the hard part at all. Our movement's great. We love to run in and charge, but you have to throw something in there that is either not going to just get wiped out or just wipe things out. And that's kind of the 2 ends of the spectrum that a lot of Flesh Eater Quartz is in. Again, if you're running that big block of flayers or horrors, you might have something that will hang in there longer, but you got to make sure it's not good enough that it just destroys whatever it's in combat with.
I was thinking I think the 20 block of Beast Flayers is a go-to for Flesh Eater Quartz.
That's fair.
Towards the bottom, you charge them in, you have one guy and the rest of them are strung back. And so you're doing minimum damage, but they're like, you pull from the back and, whatever. That's kind of where my headspace was at. Like, it's doable. They don't have a lot of interaction with it, but you like after a million games, you can say that they're already dead by the time that becomes an option.
I could see it staying as green for now. I just could see that as a problem. But you're right. Beast Flayers could have a point from it. Although I would argue one pulls from the front with Beast Flayers because you want your tiny base guys in the very front, so you can reach over them with your range 1 inch baboons and stuff.
Baboons.
So you want your little guys in the very front, your baboon guys, and your polearm guy in the second rank, and you're pulling from the front to get rid of your nonsense, so that you still got your good stuff. But it's a messy unit, and GW just keeps making messy units. Surrounded is God, the models are gorgeous. They're so good. Surround and Destroy is a good one for Feck, but you have to set it up because you have to pick the 3 units and they have to be on the board.
Yeah.
So you can't turn 1 it, but you can set yourself up to be like, okay, I know my next tactic is Surround and Destroy.
Right.
Easily. So I do think it's a really good one. It just with the caveat of you need to remember this isn't your opening play. This is your turn 2 or your turn 3 play, or your one that you save for the end of the game with little things that are just contesting objectives 6 inches away from objectives all around the board.
Right.
Screamed to death. So I think that this is probably one of the most failed attempted battle tactics because it's just so dicey. Yeah. The new flare scrolls I think help with this. It makes damage a little more reliable, and less swingy. But I still, in my last weekend of playing games, I failed this one twice by 1 or 2 wounds every time because it's random. If you get a good situation where a guy's got 1 wound left and he's bravery 6 and you have a terror guy screaming and you do d6 plus 1 damage, then cool, that's great. You know you're going to kill him. But other than that, you will always roll that 1 or that 2. So I would agree with this not being a good battle tactic. The Royal Hunt.
Is this the only battle tactic in the game still worth an extra point?
I think Daughters
No,
have
they
won.
lost it. They lost it.
They lost it. Then yes, this is it. This is it. And which was actually going to be one of my like push my glasses up. This is kind of a yellow because if you have a perfect game, your opponent has a perfect game, but you do this one, you win. Right?
With an
Um,
abhorrent.
with an abhorrent, but the little caveat of it has to be healthy because it has to be an honorable kill is tough. It's
Yeah,
super tough because it
that's
means
actually
that,
what made it a red X for me because
and I,
very few
yeah,
monsters are hell pit abominations. You know what I mean? Like zero
sure.
armor. You know.
Well, but it's not even that. It's that because we have so little shooting and all of it's like really short range. So you can build a lot of shooting, but it's all range 10. You're never going to be doing 5 or less wounds to something.
Right.
Like you're probably going to hit it hard and you failed to kill it and you want to mop it up, or it's untouched. It's really rare that we're sitting there and we're just chip damaging with archers from a distance, kind of a thing. So I sadly agree with it. It's a fun one,
Yeah.
but it's super risky.
I hope it's your like sixth battle tactic added in your book. It's still just as is. Impossible to complete, but fun if you can get it done.
And worth an extra point if you can really get it done. Because I mean, let's be fair. You have to do it with a guy on Terrorgeist or a guy on Dragon, because the abhorrents on foot are garbage profiles. They're not. They shouldn't be killing a monster, and if they are, their monster did something wrong, like really wrong.
Or yeah, it's or like Justin says, it's a Psygor. 5-up save. Good luck. R.I.P.
Sure,
Put on the
sure,
board.
sure.
Already dead.
United Court, it's tough because you kind of have to build your army to do
Right.
this, right?
Right.
Having a serfs, a knights, and a courtier, either you are setting it up that you are getting that correct combination of summons, or your list has the courtier, the knights, and the serfs, which most of them have, at least a unit of horrors or flayers, a unit of ghouls, and one courtier.
Right.
But it is the fact that it has to be an objective that your opponent controls, that you're now smashing serfs onto, knights, and a courtier, instead of my giant block of knights, my giant blocks of serfs if I'm playing Morgaunt, or a monster. Um, yeah, yellow's probably a fair point for it, but I haven't scored a United Court in a long time, and
Your
especially with
last one might have been against me playing some rats or something like that.
it could be totally could be. Another big thing is with the new battle plans in this. The objectives are so much more dynamic. You have a lot lower chance of there being that there's just a point sitting in the back from where they originally set up and deployed and they ignored it. And now I summon in a courtier and some ghouls and some knights, and they probably don't all reach it when I summon them because you got to be 6 inches from the board edge. So then the next turn, they all walk on there, and my opponent left it completely ignored.
Right.
Because that requires a certain set of 3 different things for summoning. Like it's a much trickier battle tactic to get
Yeah.
than you would hope, right? Like
Exactly.
it seems like it should be easy, but it's
the
not.
the reason I went with yellow was just because it is an objective focused battle tactic and a GHB that has none. Um, like the GHB battle tactics have no objective focus, and so you are less worried about staying on things. There's more, I think, more spread out objectives. So it's
Hmm.
and you're encouraged to get out of your house, so to speak. The castle's got to move. It's got to be
Sure.
Howl's Walking Castle and all of your armies now to get out to get these battle tactics that require that you be outside of your territory. Because I don't think that I've posted. Fact check me, guys. I don't think I've posted a single one of these factions that, if you take away intimidate and surround, have like a ton of good, more than like three good battle tactics. Air quotes good, green.
Sure.
So that's why I put it there. Like time will tell if it's realistic. Like it may be
Hmm.
that your one true build for Feck does not involve um, having the trifecta of keywords, but you've got a new book coming out pretty soon, so we could talk about it. I actually skipped cities. I didn't even put it in here. I've also skipped
Fair.
bone splitters. If they come back, then you can all spit in my eye about it. But I think that they're not they don't represent enough of the meta for me to spend time on. So anyway,
Fair.
like I think the Flesh Eater Quartz is in a hard way as far as battle tactics are concerned because you've only got three good ones. You've got five that you can complete, but it's not free money.
Yeah,
Your lack of good book tactics is tough. I think just my
very true.
just my
Well,
opinion.
and it's not even just lack of good book tactics, but lack of book tactics. I've got three. It's
Right.
still an old book compared to some of the books like Stormcast and Fire Slayers, and some of them have got I
Well,
don't know.
if
Here's
if you want to feel good, let's look at Stormcast real quick. You can kind of see where I put them.
sure.
Just two and one. They are in a hard spot, in my opinion, because their book tactics are hot garbage. Uh,
Mm,
Intimidate is difficult because they have to be like you don't want to just drop your whole army down, and it has to be you'd have to still be running at least one unit all the way across. Um,
hmm
and I don't think you just want half of your army in space. Surround and Destroy is like the one that I think you can try because you do have access to things like Aether Wings, um, but they don't have a lot of free money. And that's just my hot take. The Stormkeep guys. If you watch
hmm
this, tell me I'm dumb in your next stream. But I think that they're hurting. They're hurting for battle tactics. I think that you'll have plenty of people that complete five because yellow is not impossible. Even red is not impossible. But you don't have. I think that Stormcast players have to work more than say Caradron Overlord players, even if KO has the worst win rate because of War Scrolls. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of these, and I don't know. I feel like that Hammer Strike Assault one. I think it depends on how you build your list, right? If you've got long strikes, if you've got certain spells and whatever, because if they've got 10 or more wounds, you can snipe them from across the board.
right.
Like you could try to open up with this one, and with enough guys dropping down trying to go for 5 up mortals and some shooting, Hammer Strike Assault, I think, if you build for it, would be very doable.
You make that yellow because they do have counterplay, right? They could be safe
Yeah,
stacked to the high heavens. Um,
true. Very true.
and
Very
10,
true.
I don't know if you've ever shot with long strikes, but they do not do what you want them to do all the time. Like a
I
lot of
feel
times they
like
do a lot of damage, but they don't always do a lot of damage.
I feel like
Maybe
they
it's been a
usually do
while.
what I don't want them to do, but I play against them.
You play against them and you have no saves. Your saves are garbage, bro.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
You don't have like
Very true.
3 up save stacking mega guys, in my opinion. Like your guys are
I
wafer
for,
thin.
I forgot how awful lightning shattered morale is. That is what a dumb
So
battle tactic.
hilariously bad.
What a so
Oh,
bad,
so bad.
so bad.
Well,
Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Stormcast. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these are
well,
not.
they're doable, but they're not free money. You gotta work for it. Like you can do Hammer Strike Assault, but it's not free
Mhm.
money. All right.
Right.
Let's see. We were at Flesh Eater Courts. Let's go to Night Haunt.
Ooh.
Night Haunt are in a better spot than I thought as far as battle tactics. A lot of these
Mhm.
factions are in a better spot. Four with one star next to a green battle tactic is more common than I was expecting. I was expecting like threes and zeros on a few of these factions. They are
Mhm.
in. It's better. It's a lot better, especially as I sit down and I think about it. Over the last week, I've been impressed. So they're all super fast and they all fly. Like base 8 move, I think, across the army, or faster.
Mhm.
And so things like Intimidate Invaders is a lot easier, especially since you have access to 25 L bases. Um,
Yep. As well as putting things in the graveyard. Like
yep,
you can just pop them up on the other side
you can
if
just pop
that's
up
what
on the
you're
other
going
side,
for.
and some of like you
Hundred
can
percent.
fly some, pop up some, boom, done. Surround and Destroy, also pretty easy given your 8-inch move. Not free, especially on the battle tactics that require that you move like minimum 10 with 25 mil bases to get wholly outside. And then you have to also be wholly within 6 of the board edge. So it's more like 12 inches. You need to be able to move 12. But
Mhm.
they have access to things like the horses, that meme list that I took to Lone Star GT last year, or I guess earlier
Yep.
this year. Um,
True.
you just move 24 inches, like plus a run. Like just
Hmm.
I'm on the board where I want to be. A couple of units of those are a free battle tactic for them, and they're units
Fair.
that you probably want to bring because I think that they're really good personally. Even at 180, they're still pretty good. They don't do a ton of
Sure.
damage, but they can screen. They can like teleport effectively with a 24-inch base move that you can't charge with, but it doesn't matter. Bait and trap is like probably the easiest battle tactic for any faction ever because your whole army is already retreating. All you need to do is have 2 units not in combat already, and then they
Yep.
charge along with all the things that just retreated. And you just want
For
to,
sure.
like their whole mechanic is, can I charge you and roll high? Which is why
Hey,
they, yeah,
hot take. I think at least yellow, maybe green, for endless expropriation for Night Hunt.
what?
Because they have got the guy with the book, you've got your whatever curse doing damage. Like if you pick wizards and you wait for them to throw an endless spell out and you start just hitting them little D3s and whatever, I think you've got a better chance of picking off a guy controlling an endless spell or an incarnate than most anybody else on the like as far as their armies go. I think they actually have the
Chance?
potential to set that up on all of those wizards and be like, hey, if you keep your guy casting an endless spell, and if he is holding one and he's down to 1 or 2 wounds, I'm hitting it with all the abilities that I can right now and trying to just nuke it.
So Justin, some comments here. Feck will rise above with the new tome. They can be in combat also, though, right? Are you talking about bait and trap? You can start in combat. You just have to have 2 people. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Justin. I didn't even realize that bait and trap is even easier because you don't have to have 2 units outside. You just can't chart. You can't retreat and charge with the same 2. You can just have 4 units retreat, charge with all 4 of them.
Sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Good call. Thank you, Justin. You are correct. It's even easier than I thought. Derek too. Keeping us honest,
Yep.
particularly me, because I'm the one that said those things. Um. Okay, I'll give you yellow on endless expropriation. No worries.
Thank you. Perfect. Perfect.
Um.
Perfect. I'm trying to think. Are they a an okay chance at magical mayhem too? Is their spell lore is not super damagey?
No, it's not. I wouldn't get like magical mayhem. You have to get through the unbinds, the primal unbinds. You have to get through like your casters are bad. You
True.
don't have like you've got one named caster that like can get up to +3. I think on one maybe 2 spells. Reignor, I think the Grimhaler, great model. Uh,
Hmm.
but
Right.
you don't have like huge damage, and you need to be able to like this is your battle tactic. This is two
Hmm.
points. Can I point at that guy and say he's dead? And
Right.
I don't think you can. Not even like with a setup. You can
That's
bring an endless
fair.
spell, like they've got good endless spells, but then you're setting yourself up for endless expropriation because all of your heroes are already prime targets. Now you're just saying, okay, that other guy you're gonna kill, yeah, don't kill him. Just kill the guy that's controlling the hourglass spell that's like pulsing damage
Yep.
every turn. And those
Nope, that's
things are
fair.
easy to remove. I I hear you
Hmm.
that there's an opportunity for magical mayhem, but having played uh a lot of Night Haunt. I say a lot for me. All right, chat, calm down. I know that a lot doesn't mean a lot, but for me,
as
like
much
I've played it
as,
as much as I've
as
played a few armies.
there you go. As much as you play any army,
Yeah,
you've
I
played
took
it a
him to a
lot.
GT, which is more than I can say for like a lot of armies.
That means you played at least 5 games. That's pretty
Ooh,
great.
that's a high number. That's a big number. That's as many fingers as I have in my hand. Uh,
I do agree with you on Surround and Destroy. I think that anyone that disagrees that Night Haunt can do that, actually, the death, maybe, well, maybe not OBR, but death in general, Surround and Destroy should be a good one for us.
right,
Like, just given.
just a good one. Maybe not so much on Soulblight because they don't start with a bunch of fast stuff on the board.
Yeah, but you can, again, you can gravesite. If you set your gravesites up for it
They have
to
to be on
just
the board.
have them pop up,
They have to
but you're
start on the
setting up
board.
for turn 2
Oh
just
yeah.
like Feck is, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. They might be a green. I don't remember what I picked.
Sure.
I'm always focused on what can I do turn 1, because
Ooh, mhm.
what if I'm given top of 1 or bottom of 1, I want to know that I've got like $1 in the bank that I can just blast out and get done, even if I wanted to save it.
But if that's your go, intimidate your invaders because you're jumping up turn one, and then surround and destroy because you're already over on the other side.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely going to be an easy one for almost everyone except OBR. So all the three other death factions. So anyway, Night Haunt I
Sure.
think are in a good spot. We'll keep going.
I think, yep.
Now that Shannon's here, we've got a real conversation with him. He's just like blasting through these real fast.
It's going to
I
take
love it.
forever.
I mean, I'm
Yep,
down. I love it. So speaking
for
of
sure.
OBR, uh, I have them same as Night Haunt. I think that they have the maybe not the easiest, but maybe one of the easiest turn ones, Magical Dominance. The reason I picked that is because I don't think they have a ton of spells that they need to cast. They're not LRL, where they've got good casting, but they need to be casting like a bunch of spells to set up their defensive castle and the debuffs. They have Dark Acolyte, which I see people take a lot, and I have taken it a lot myself, where you get to pick a spell in the lore, and if you can cast it, you can't be unbound. So you don't even have to backboard them. You put them up front. You just say Dark Acolyte, 8.3% chance to fail this if I roll, you know, under 5 or whatever. I guess it can't be
Mm-hmm.
that one. It's probably a little bit higher, but you can throw your primal dice after it. Um,
Sure.
I think it's a great opening battle tactic. I think a lot of OBR people are going to be doing this. I'm bringing Dark Acolyte for Magical Dom too. So Derek knows. Big brain on Derek. Um, Bait and Trap. I think that you've got your retreat and charge, free money, right? That's
Yep.
a OBR specific command ability that all OBR have access to. Let into the Maelstrom. I think you've got heroes that you can just charge that are super durable.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Trample the
Well,
Defiant. Oh, go ahead.
and with Lead in the Maelstrom, you've got a Cav hero and a Cav battle line that move the same speed. They are meant to charge in together. Like, I agree. I think that they are set up to make Lead into the Maelstrom be something they are supposed to do.
Right. You have access to a few different warlords, so I picked Reprisal as being yellow, one of the few yellows, because a lot of people are taking both Arcan and Catacross, and then you can take one foot hero for the Dark Acolyte, so you have three generals on the field. And at some point, somebody's going to die, maybe, and then whoever reached out to have to do that work, you can just clap them dead, and that's just free money again for them. Um, Not necessarily, but I think that it's pretty good. Trample the Defiant. I think that the Cavalos Death Riders having two of those is almost required. And I think that's why you saw their points go up. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, they made a mistake. Everyone was taking them, because not because they're good, but because Mortek are bad. And while I still think that's kind of the case, especially after the changes to the crawler, I think that people take two because they are kind of a free battle tactic, not a free one, but a good one that they can always complete during all of their games. Having played a few games with OBR, do you agree?
Uh, on the Trample the Defiant,
Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I was just finishing up reading that whole second half. I agree with you on how you ranked all of those,
Yeah.
with the exception maybe of Unfeeling Recursion, depending on if you're just playing guard spam.
Right. Which we haven't seen that be successful.
True, very true.
At least at tournaments. Maybe the good players are just playing something that's slightly better, but they could do just as well or very similarly with guard spam. I just think that the Immortus Guard blocks with Catacross and Arcan are just so resilient. The recursion it's reaching levels that make me have flashbacks about flares and what's it mustering flares.
Players and
Oh,
mustering.
oh,
Oh,
wow.
even flares and mustering is nothing compared to like fantasy eighth ed vampire counts back in the day where
So pretty bad.
they brought back like 45 models every turn and you just looked at it and did nothing.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. It was the best. It was so fun.
All right, OBR's in a good spot. Shocker.
Yeah,
And
good
it's
for
not
them.
just the battle tactics. I explained earlier that just because I rate an army good here on battle tactics doesn't mean they're going to be like a 5-0 army or even a 4-1 army. They can have good battle tactics and still fall on their face because they've got bad grand strats, and they've got bad
Mhm.
more scrolls and bad allegiance abilities.
Sure.
or bad points. So speaking of Soul Blight, 4-1 as well. Like I said, there was more of these than I thought. Hey, look, surround and destroy, and I made it a first turn battle tactic for some reason.
Hmm.
Maybe I was thinking of Black Knights because I think Black Knights are so good.
For sure. Well,
Oh,
or if you play Legion of the Night, you can do a bunch. Like
oh,
there's,
yeah,
well,
Legion of the Night, because you can teleport
yeah,
one hero and just have bats. That's what it was.
yeah,
I,
bats.
I think you should have bats and like one unit of bats in almost all your lists.
Yep.
Because you could
So good.
just go out. Like I never rated bats until I played Shannon, who allied them into Feck, and I'm like, bats are good. And then I look at the stats, and I'm like, why does this man convince me these are good? It's just because he's good at Warhammer. So the bats and the teleport in Legion of the Night, or just 2 units of bats for
Mhm.
each surround and destroy. They're like 70, 80 points. Um, I would they're in all my lists. I know Tom Guan just went 5-0 at Outlaw GT with 200 zombies. But I think that's a different play style where you just kind of put half of your army in the grave, you go first, you bring them up, and then you win the game because they can't score anything.
Yeah. I want. Let's talk about reprisal with Soulblight Gravelords.
Let's do it.
I think they've got. Don't they have access to probably more War Masters than any other faction?
They might. Is Radikar a War Master? I know that they've
If
got.
he's if he's not Spicy Grandma for sure is right.
Dogma. Let's find out. I'm gonna check my app right now.
Sounds good. But for sure you've got the two Mortarks. I know you got Manfred, you got Neferata.
So, Spicy Grandma. She is a War Master.
Okay.
You've got the two Mortarks. Von
Yep.
Karstein is a War Master. Oh, you're
Hmm.
right. I forgot about all these War Masters. Is Radikar a
Yeah.
War Master? He's not a War Master.
You have both versions.
I just checked Chadokar. Looking at Little Car, he is also not a War Master.
Okay. So maybe it's just three,
There's a lot,
but that's.
and
I mean, three's a fair amount.
yeah, I'll give it a yellow because things die. Things
Sure.
die. That's one army I might not mind losing my
Hmm.
picked general because like the healing on the Mortarks is so good right now.
Also, let's. Okay, and I understand that it's a lot harder to get like the important spells off now. Magical Mayhem.
All right. I'll hear you out. Hear you out.
They have a board wide. I do a wound.
Right. Or two.
If or two, right? So if something is just limping along in the backfield, you don't have to be close to it, and you could your guys heal pretty darn well, your vampires and everything. You could try to push for that to just take that guy out, and they do have a lot of damage spells as well. Like Manfred's got a damage spell. I think a bunch of their other heroes have all got little D3 pip sort of things. It is still iffy in this one. I get it
I,
for
I
sure.
I can give it to you if you're feeling it. I've certainly never had that kill anything. I've had it be the reason that they died, but they've never been killed by the damage from the spell.
Interesting. But
It's,
have you ever tried to make sure the spell kills them?
I don't play this. I don't play specific armies enough to say that like I focused on this. I've just played
Okay.
against them a lot because they're pretty popular at in the local area, and they have caused things to die all the time because those things are limping around on like between 1 and 3 wounds. But I don't think I've ever had it like Spirit Gale be the reason that they died.
Sure.
But that's just
Sure.
me. That's just me. John D.
There.
Lukavi is also a War Master. Ooh, nice
There you
call.
go.
Prince V.
Nice.
Prince V as well. And that's what you get for
Wow.
just
That's a
having.
ton of them.
I know they've got a ton. Okay, reprisal, strong yellow, strong yellow.
There
Thanks,
you go.
John.
Strong yellow. Yeah, I would agree with a bunch of the ones. There might be some of these like that right hand column that might be more doable depending on how you build your army. But I think something that's definitely worth noting is how little red there is. Even though they might just be four on the green,
Yeah,
only got two red, which is great. It's fantastic.
there's a reason why they're still very strong on the meta. I'm going to go
Mhm.
back to OBR. Derek
Oh,
was saying that Sculptor's entourage is a strong green because he says that and neither of us are strong OBR players. Like I streamed a gray OBR army for the battle, like the book Battle Tome release.
uh-huh.
Um, let's see. You complete this tactic if at the end of the turn a friendly Immortus guard unit and a friendly Mortison are contesting the same objective wholly outside your territory. My complaint is that the Mortison is not fast.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Is Arcana Mortison?
I don't think so, but I have the power of almost all the books. So, I mean, I could be checking Wikipedia, but I've got my phone right here.
That's fair.
OBR, War Scrolls, Arcan. I don't think he is. I'm
Okay.
gonna. No, he's a Mortarch, but not a Mortisan.
Not a Mortison. Okay. Yeah, and when I was looking at it, I was thinking the exact same thing too. It was like, oh, it's just go and sit on a thing. But you're right. You have to be booking a Mortison with those guard. I think you
Derek
can
says he
build
gets
for
it
it.
100% of his games. I'll give it a green, Derek. I'm gonna listen to the player who plays 3 armies rather than 20. How about that? How
I would
about
say if you're building for it and you are trying for it, like you sit there and you're like, okay, turn one,
it's part of your
we're
plan?
using whatever unstoppable advance or whatever it's called, adding in the movement, and just you guys are pushing up the side while the main block is over doing this.
Because
I think
if you're
that's
going for
fair.
dark, whatever the dark wizardry or whatever it is, the dark acolyte for magical dominance, you already have
Hmm.
a Mortisan because it's going to be going on one. Because that's
Sure.
like it's such your cheap foot person, and you pick the sculptor because he does the heals, and that combos with the Immortus Guard. So then you're kind of already building for a sculptor's entourage, and at that point, all you need to do is plan for it. All right, Derek,
Fair.
you convinced me, my friend. I'm in. So anyway, so
Legit. That's
all right,
fine. Yep, I
uh,
agree.
yep. Sorry. I was just getting caught up on chat because my screen is wide and I forgot to keep up. Um, anyway, the so Soul Blight, great spot. We talked about them.
Yep.
Um, next up,
Pretty great.
Gloom Spike Gits. So they
Yes.
are in better than average, we'll say, as far as their battle tactics go. And that there was a little 1-dayer RTT where one of our
Yep.
Gloom Spike Gits players went 3-0. He's a good player, based like on his own, but he opted not to play Zinch to play Gits instead. And part of that might have been the fact that I think that Gloomspite Gits have a better set of battle tactics than Zinch does. They have 2 good ones that they can start out with, and they have more green ones.
Why? Why is Intimidate the Invaders yellow?
End of your turn, there are more friendly units because so the lists I've seen
Hmm.
don't have more than half of the army running out of the zone.
Okay.
And then they're bringing stuff back, which happens inside their territory. And so
Okay.
as they
Okay.
recur, they're not recurring in a way that allows them to easily get intimidate invaders, in my opinion. If we
Hmm.
have any where are my orcs? Referred Mr. Bugman says. We'll get there. We're in destruction, and destruction is the home run. Or the home stretch. Yeah.
Home
Sports.
stretch.
Yeah,
Getting
that's a
there.
sports thing. Yeah, we're getting there.
The old home run. It's a score in sports ball.
Fortunately, order and chaos happened before there were 2 people on, and I just like smashed through it because there was no one to question my opinions.
You're all welcome.
Exactly. We'll get there. We're almost to the orcs. I didn't include bone
Absolutely.
splitters because I don't respect them as an army. But the other
Oof.
2 are.
Oof.
And I have 2 listings for sons. So anyway, back to this.
Wow.
Um, if we have any gets players in chat, let me know if intimidating the invaders is something that you don't have to work for. It's free and requires no interaction with the opponent. Yellow isn't bad. Just remember that yellow is not bad, and that you
Yeah.
can definitely score it 100% of your games. It's just that you're not trying to run your entire army outside of your deployment zone. Real quick before we continue, I don't think you were here to see the battle plan territories, Shannon. And this is kind of
Probably not.
like informs my decision making on what's easy and what's not easy. There's
Sure.
5 battle plans where you have to run a minimum of 10 inches with 25 mil bases
Mm-hmm.
in a line to get wholly outside of your territory on turn 1, or just in
Sure.
general. Like, there's a lot of movement that you got to do.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
when all your battle line is move 14 with run and charge, you should be able to do that.
it's true. And it might be that Gloomspite gets should get a yellow. Um, if there's a Gits player that wants to chime in, let us know. I think I picked yellow for reprisal because you're always taking Skagrot, it seems like, and he's a War Master, so you are likely to have access to do that at some point in the game.
Sure. Fair. Yeah.
Um,
No, and I think the rest of those, yeah, I agree. As sad as I am about how spiders turned out.
yeah,
Yeah.
spiders are playable. I've seen some people do okay with spiders. Okay, just okay, not good, just okay. Yellow dash as far as their performance with spiders.
Mm.
All right, so not a lot to say here. Gloomspite gets their army's good, their battle tactics are good, and I'm not sure, but they might have a good grand strat. Um, Certainly not Overshadow, which I've seen people take a lot because it has to be, I think, your starting army, um, and you're returning a lot of units.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like they die all the time, but you end up with a lot of battle line, just not starting battle line.
Fair.
Um, all right, we'll move on. Ogre Maw tribes 4-1, way better than I thought. I thought they were going to be really struggling. I actually talked to Randy, who was in the Outlaw GT. Great guy.
Hmm.
Whooped my butt on the Weird Knobs stream for Lone Star in February. He wiped the floor with me. It was brutal towards the end. But anyway, great ogre player, and I had them at like 3-0. Like they're in a tough spot, and he went 4-1, and it was a close 4-1. It could have been he could have been going for Tom and lost to him against the 200 zombies. He
Mm.
was like, yeah, I was never going to beat that army. But he did really well, and it was with monster trucks. Not purely monster trucks, but he says that Kragnos is required now, or at least it's hard to do well without him because of his ability to give you things like Avalanche of Flesh. Like I had that one marked low. It's like if you take Kragnos and just charge a few times, they're fast monsters. You just get it. Savor the savor the taste. Um, it's a great like round five. I've killed almost everything. I just retreat everything out. Savor the taste. Done. Eat your fill. It's a little bit harder because you can kill your way out of that battle tactic, which is always a feel bad. Like I did too good. -2 points. But surround and destroy, intimidate invaders. You're gonna have some fast stuff either in the Mornfang, not Mornfang, Sabertooths, whatever those cats are. Uh,
Yep. Yep.
it,
Saber-tooths.
or just your more likely your monster trucks move up and grab it, and then led into the maelstrom. Your monster trucks are both heroes, and some of them are battle line. You just charge them in and tag something you don't attack. Boom, free money.
So why not let them loose?
All right,
How
where's
many how many specific monstrous rampages do they have? I know they got at least one.
All right, they've got the one, as far as I'm aware, which is like it goes off without a hitch. You can't do one of theirs with Kragnos. Maybe you charge them in. Maybe let them loose should be yellow. The end of your turn, if you carried out 4 more monstrous rampages this turn.
Because if you've got the charge through,
Oh,
I guess you're still relying on them having a monster or them having a terrain piece in order to
that's
do the stomp or that.
I
So
think
maybe
that's
that's
what it
what you were
was.
thinking.
I think that's what it
Okay,
was. I was like, they have to have like a terrain feature or another monster that I'm getting into,
fair.
and I'll still give it. Well, it's just not everyone's bringing the monsters.
Their
Even
loss.
even if I've seen them a lot, I'll give them a yellow.
Okay.
I'll give it a yellow. I think it's a good call out. I think I wasn't thinking about their free one, just like Stonehorn's monster truck.
Yep.
Then Boil Their Bones is garbage because their faction train feature is bad. All right, Ogre
Well,
Maltrides, even just changing one more yellow, they're just in a better spot than I thought they were. Just
mhm.
like all the armies are in a better spot than I thought, except for maybe Stormcast and Suns. Uh, Cruel Boys, oh man, here you go, Mr. Bugman. John D. Messages redacted. Let me see what he typed here. Oh man. All right, look at some of these, Shannon, while I figure out how to be an admin.
All right, cool. Wow. They got okay. You put three in there. Surround and destroy. So okay, well, and I got a question for you. Why would you do surround and destroy but not intimidate the invaders as green? Like if you have the ability to do surround and destroy pretty well, and maybe you're just talking about running up the side of the board, you can't see me, so therefore I'm there. But I feel like if you have the ability to pull off surround and destroy pretty well, you should have the ability to pull off intimidate the invaders.
Pull up, intimidate the invaders. So end the turn with three or more friendly units wholly outside of your territory, or more units
More
wholly
outside than
than
inside. Yeah.
inside. When I've seen people play Crew Boys, I have not seen them just run literally everything. Certainly,
Hmm.
always see Bolt Boys, and Bolt Boys are not wanting to get outside. Um, and their battle and their dirty tricks aren't reliable. I,
Sure.
I, I
But
can give it
what?
I
So,
can
but
give it a green just because you're
I'm
going to
not.
be.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it has to be green, but what are they doing for surround and destroy that gives that a green if they're not doing intimidate the invaders? Because two of those units have to be wholly outside your territory to get surround and destroy.
So I guess I consider Surround and Destroy to be an easier because it just requires two units to already be out there, and you can take a couple of Hobgrot units, and just run them up the
Hmm.
side. Um, but you might be correct that if they can do one, then they can do the other. I'm just thinking that the things that would do Surround and Destroy then just get murdered, and then they
Right.
get more and more things that don't want to be running upfield, like the Bolt Boys. I'll admit, like, I haven't played anything but like a meme list, like 18 units of Bolt Boy lists against Score Boys in forever.
Sure.
I never see them, and so this is entirely just conjecture on my point, on my
Okay.
part about like I played Big Wah, but I have not played
Hmm.
Grill Boys. Actually, I played Big Wah, but I haven't not recently played Grill Boys because they're in a super tough spot. John
I
D,
think
real quick,
yeah,
I can't unredact your message for reasons I can't explain, so apologies.
nifty. I the things that I've seen do well on Cruel Boys lists, I think I've also been hanging back and shooting more stuff than running two things up. Maybe you run your troll brood or whatever, um, but getting it wholly outside of your territory, even if you're doing those little hobgrots, those hobgrots had better be near somebody. Like, or if they take five shots, you're going to lose the rest of the unit just from little things peppering them off.
Right.
I'm
Maybe
actually
Surround and Destroy should be
starting to lean
yellow.
more. Exactly, I'm leaning more towards surround and destroy might be harder than we're thinking,
Yeah, all right.
versus intimidate the invaders is easier.
All right.
Um,
So
which
Cruel
not to
Boys.
kick a guy while he's down.
Are
Hmm,
they've only got two, so the take that you suckers. That's just shoot. Just do what you were already gonna do. You know, do a bunch of mortal wounds with Bolt Boys, and then
sure.
sneak up. That's the new one. Have all your guys next to terrain. Uh, that's free money. I would probably do that before I do take that because I can do take that turn two, and that'll
Sure.
give me time to kind of shoot for some of the book tactics, which are all yellow or almost all yellow, but all almost all achievable with a little bit of work. Super sneaky
Fair
plus
enough.
normal gameplay. Yeah, we're super sneaky. Isn't that the faction ability where you get a random number of units in like you can put them out near terrain features outside of your territory, Justin? Uh, I I just because that's random. It's like you roll three dice, and on each four up you can put something. Command trait, no roll. Uh, well, I'd have to look at super sneaky. You might have got me there. Maybe it is good. I just think that if they were scoring at least good battle tactics, you'd see 3-2s out of them, and I don't think they're even doing that. Maybe there's just nobody playing, right? They're the worst army right now, as far as I can recall.
At least they got a page on your thing. We're not even talking about bone splitters.
I mean, when was the last time you saw a Bone Splitter army outside of like a streamer who's been playing since
I know a guy up in Fort Collins who just loves those guys.
I didn't know that. I wish he would come down and show me the ways of splitting bones.
It involves a lot of Pabst Blue Ribbon and sleeveless shirts.
I don't have either of those. All right. Cruel Boys, good for turn one. Having a hard time with the rest of the game. Iron Jaws, on the other hand, it's a good time to be a yellow armored orc. I think. Four good tactics. Two of them you can complete turn one.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is the new one. That's our turf now. That's one where you just put 2 units wholly within, or not wholly within, just within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield. Spoiler alert. That's where you want to be. You just want to push everything up. At least
Mm-hmm.
every Iron Jaws player, including myself, I've only ever seen them play like that. Intimidate and surround. I feel strongly about like that was easy. Legend of the Maelstrom. Your Maw Crusher has some pigs. Just tag a unit. Don't put damage into it. Boom, you're done. Like just because you charged doesn't mean you have to fully face the what you charged. You don't have to try and kill it. Just stick yourself in. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
your army is battle line, so you can just charge everything in. You're not going to lift the whole army as long as one unit is still alive, and within three, you're in, baby. The Maw Crusher wants to kill what it's in with because it tends to be focused down. But aside from that, I think it's in a good spot. I think they're in a good spot. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I'm looking at the squish the puny gets. Why is that a red in your mind?
Okay, you can pick this battle tactic only if the model is an Iron Jaws. And then there's at least one enemy battle line unit on the battlefield. Complete this tactic if there are no battle line units on the battlefield at the end of this turn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe it should be yellow. I just think it's super situational because there's plenty of armies that are just all battle line, and I don't
I
know
see.
how often, particularly very popular ones like OBR, Soulblight, have
Mhm.
super resilient battle line like a Mortis Guard, 200 zombies, um, and it's not just starting army, it's just any battle line. So Soulblight return to unit.
Mm.
Any chaos people, have been they keep putting battle line on the board. I don't think it's free money. Maybe it can be a yellow, but
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think it's free money either. But it seems to me like that's a good option for a late game, which I think is where a lot of people are having troubles with some of these battle tactics. Is that in your late game, especially if you're not running something that's got wizards doing nuke damage,
right.
the tactics are tough. But that's set up to be a late game tactic, right? Like your general's still
Yeah.
alive. He's probably a cabbage. They've got some battle line. You go smash it.
I'd be surprised if your cabbage is alive round five, but I do agree that by that point you've probably got. If you're winning, you're gonna win more with
Sure.
squish the puny gets. It's definitely a win more battle tactic. You're not like behind and then it's your secret. Like
Oh no, no,
here's
no.
my no you reversal Uno card.
Yep.
Um, so I can get that one. I've actually scored time to get stuck in. It was with big wall. Speaking of big wall, you want to move on to the
Let's
second
do it.
best battle tactic faction,
Oh
big
sure. Yeah.
wall.
Let's
So
see
maybe
it.
maybe the first because I think it's got no. I think it's
Wow.
one good tactic behind KO, but it's got three that you can get turn one. It's got six good tactics. I'll tell you what, like I don't know if you're going to see them on the top tables because there's problems with its core units into some of the best stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
I say problems. It's just the book is old is all that you're really seeing, and then these really really new
Uh,
books are
are, Are you kidding me? That book is like a year and a half younger, if not 2 years younger, than some people's books.
I think that if you're the least popular kid in school and you look at the second least popular kid, it's not fair to say that they're not unpopular.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's
But
still a
it
good
is,
book, and Big Wall is better than it's ever been, in my opinion.
so here's the question: is this just a really weird thing because of how many battle tactics they have? Like
hundred
if you go
percent.
by percentage of how many battle tactics you have, green versus red, do they go way back down again? Actually,
Oh,
no, they're still not bad.
no,
They're actually still not bad. They're at a
not
1-to-1
bad.
ratio, which is
Like
better than most people.
Iron Jaws is your core, in my opinion. You see a ton of Iron Jaws, and then you
Mhm.
have one or two Cruel Boys, and probably just one Bone Splitters, which is the Wargog or the Doc. I don't think anyone plays the Doc except me. Like I actually don't play the Wargog because I'm struggling to fit everything in, and I just drop it for the Doc because he's so much cheaper. Um, the sneak up, if you take one Cruel Boys unit like Gobsprack, which is what you see a lot of these guys doing, then you
Mhm.
only have to have Gobsprack next to a terrain feature, and you have completed the battle tactic. It's not your whole army. It's just every Cruel Boys unit. It's so good. It's
So Justin brings up a good point. Why is take dat so much lower now? Is it just having to pick your general as Cruel Boys?
where's take that? What was it? Oh,
Two
because
mortal wounds don't take them.
I don't think that when Bolt Boys are not your only option for damage, like
Mhm.
your main source of damage, you're not going to take it. I don't see people leaning into them because you can no longer shoot heroes, and they're super like unreliable. You see people taking Gobsprack now, which is 280
Sure.
points.
But you don't have to do the damage with Cruel Boys.
You don't?
You could stop. You could do spell damage. You just got to do mortal wounds,
Oh, you're not
right?
making Cruel Boys your general.
Right, and that was my question.
Yeah. Sorry, I miss it.
And does Gobsprack being a War Master not count for that?
If the model picked, so no,
Okay,
no
okay,
War Masters. Um,
fair enough.
yeah, you make Iron Jaws usually your general because
Mhm.
18-inch range on like that the hero phase move is just so good. Uh, I've never seen a really successful big wall that makes their general something other than Iron Jaws. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen everything. People are taking Gobsprack as general for this tactic. Well, as soon as they start going 4-1 in GTs, they'll convince me, Justin. But the only big wall that I've seen got slapped like a little baby in an outlaw. Now that doesn't mean that
Why are
those.
you slapping little
I
babies?
don't know, man. It's rude. Those Texas guys, they're brutal. They'll just wreck you. They're super nice, but they'll slap a baby if they got to. You know what
Fair enough.
I
Fair enough.
mean? So anyway, that's my hot take. I'll give it a yellow, Justin, just for you, because you're saying that you're seeing people do it. I think that even with it as red, you've got more battle tactics that are just free money than you have battle tactics you got to take in a game. You know, like it feels like splitting hairs. Like they're they're
Sure. No, you've got more than a game's worth. Who
and wait
cares?
for it, lads, is free. If you've ever played as Big Wall, you realize that you get to 24 to 30 wall points immediately, and then you never call the wall because +1/+1 is super good, especially if you're just a bunch of brutes and pigs, which is what I find myself doing. Though I've been
For sure.
putting in a couple of those 80-point killabos because there's everyone seems to have like one monster, and being able to just like target find them for 160 points and just blast them off the board, or at least whittle them down so it's easy to pick them up. Those killabos are great for 80 points. For 80 points, they're great in my opinion. Um, if I didn't take them, maybe I'd have room for a work dog. Anyway, uh, if you're playing Big Wall, you're playing peak orc in my opinion. Like
There
it's
you
the
go.
premier thing. BW has won 2 tournaments in the new GHB. I don't know who BW is. Oh, Big
Big
Wall.
Law. That's
Big
what we're
Wall.
talking
I don't. I just think it's a
about.
person. Now I need to
Well,
check
BW.
lists. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen those tournaments. Maybe Maybe they're smaller. Are the tournaments like not in BCP? I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the saddest faction version of the faction. Um,
Bone splitters.
no, no, no. Lol. I deleted that slide, sir. I deleted it last night because it was
Oh
hidden and
man.
it kept I kept accidentally moving into it, and then
Okay.
so I just sniped it like the faction
You're just
is
done.
probably gonna like GW is probably gonna do in the next edition. Um,
Okay.
Sons of Behemoth, no regiment of renown. This is important. No regiment. Um, one good tactic, zero turn one tactics. Just because
Nice.
just because the bases are so big, it's difficult to reliably get wholly outside your territory. Right? It's not hard to move 10 inches. It's super hard to move 10 inches plus your base. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
so unless you're playing 11 man crushers, in which case some of these get a little bit easier. I'm not gonna look in the mirror and pretend like I represent any percentage of Sons of Behemoth players.
Right.
But all of their book tactics are not reliable. They're achievable. Everything is achievable. You can do everything that they write, even if it's like once ever on the earth. Uh, I just don't like killing a hero with a rock. I've never seen somebody do that and succeed. Wrecking crew maybe. Um, if you demolish affection terrain feature, that's still just a 3-up roll. Like,
And
which
they have to take terrain.
and they have to have one. Just not even take it,
Yeah.
just have it. Like, you playing
Sure.
Zinch? Sorry, buddy.
Meh. Soul Blight. Meh.
Yep, lots of popular armies. Um, 4-1 at Summer Slaughter. Gobs is general. Well, there you go, Justin. I did change it for Big Wah to make that a yellow instead of a red. So
It can be done.
it can be done. It's realistic. Picking him as general is realistic. It's not what I would do, but I might not be the best Big Wall player. Uh, so back to Suns. Like, if you're playing raw Suns, I don't know what you're doing. Like, maybe it's easy. Maybe you just put an Arcane Tome on somebody, you stick it in the back corner, you take one, like boom, tactic done. Bait and trap seems hard, but maybe like I gave it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you take some man crushers. Reprisal. I guess you can take King Broad now, so you'll have two generals. Your damage isn't great. Man, do you have anything here that you would like to be more
Nope.
positive on? Okay,
Oh.
so this was originally my only slide for Suns. I was gonna like big thumbs down it, and then over the weekend, Chris Schilling, great Sons of Behemoth player. I actually got to play at KC not this year, but the year before. Um, he went 4-1 with Suns, and he lost at the top table against 200 zombies. And he did it with the Regiment of Renown. So by taking that Regiment of Renown,
Mhm.
you all of a sudden get access to a ton of battle tactics because it's like 4 units and they deep strike in like wherever you want. So you can set up intimidate invaders for free. You just deep strike them somewhere. It allows your gargants to run and charge, the big ones, not just the man crushers. It gives you surround destroy turn 2. It lets you lead into the maelstrom because you can charge with a hero and just have a squid unit, like not get killed, or the Boingart Grounder unit that's 20 wounds. Bait and trap. You can charge your garbage guys, get them out, and then charge the gargants in, or vice versa. Like, it really opens up the battle tactics by just having that regiment, and I don't know if you can crush it with Suns in a tournament without the regiment.
Yeah.
And that's my hot
Okay.
take. It's my hot take.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, I mean, and I think that that's what those regiments that are renowned are for, right? Is to give a little bit of spice, a little bit of new life to a normal faction that usually feels pretty locked in. Like the weird thing that you were doing with Skaven and adding Zinchen.
Yeah.
That's a different crazy thing you can add in. So yeah, no, I think that's a legit thing to have added in there, or if nothing else, it can give some hope to Sons of Behemoth players that are
Right.
very sad about what this GHB might be doing to their army.
Yeah, it's a shame that the people that are excited about playing the big guys have to paint and buy the littlest guys.
Right, right.
They're cool models
Is
though.
that great? Is that good though?
Is
Is
it
that what
good
they
though?
should do?
Yeah, yeah. So, anyway, like if you wanna have access to easy battle tactics, you got to do it. I think, or just play Love Man Crushers. Lol, get
Sure.
good. Um, are there any factions that I had touched on before you hopped on that you'd like to look at?
Um, not particular. You don't happen to have a final thing with everybody all ranked out and etc. Do you?
I chose not to because I'd like to
Okay.
do grand strats and then basic army power, and then
Mm-hmm.
finish off with a fourth stream that has a mega tier list where you look at all of the stats and then you rank all of the armies.
Holy cow! I mean, if I wanted to see that, I would need to like and subscribe.
And in typical Weekend Decadent fashion, we're gonna end this stream by asking you to like and subscribe.
Indeed. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So
Yeah. No,
it's
that's
better
awesome.
than I thought. When I was first playing, I was like, people are gonna be dropping tactics, and I think people will be, but not as many as I thought. A lot of armies are at 4-1 as far as like good tactics, along with something that they can open with that isn't cast a spell in a corner.
Sure.
Um, I'm like, we'll see on stream. Like I've got a stream with Fire Slayers, and that Nurgle list that got requested at the end of your battle report.
Hmm.
Uh, not this weekend, but next weekend, which I will get posted as we get closer, and we'll see kind of how it plays out. I think I played like 4 games of the new GHB. We'll see if I'm any better at it, but I'm curious if anybody has any comments about their experience. Go ahead and drop it down if you've made it this far into the video in the
Absolutely.
comments below. And definitely like and subscribe because I think what I'm supposed to say is it helps the channel. It certainly helps the channel reach everybody, and the more people that we can be chatting with while we're playing games, like
Hmm.
that's the dream. It's the best part about
It's
streaming.
it's fun.
Yeah,
It's so much
it's the
fun,
best part
and
about
it
streaming.
it makes the videos even longer. It's wonderful.
And that's something we are the best at. All right.
Absolutely.
Any thoughts before we sign off?
I don't think so. I think we're in for a lot of fun with this GHB. It's got a full year into it for things to change and adapt. And thus far, I've even the games that I've lost, I've enjoyed every game because they're engaging, fun battle plans. That it's not just we line up on the side and
Battle
either you
plans.
pin me in and I'm in trouble, or you shoot me off and I'm in trouble.
The battle plans are
So
all fantastic.
yeah, they're great.
Not all fantastic, but they are generally like all the best. Maybe the best grouping of battle tactics that we've had. And I said that about the
There's
last one.
which had twists and turns in it. So
Yeah,
imagine how much better this one is.
right? All that's saying is about how bad the previous ones were, really.
Mm.
Is there any battle plans that you have not liked?
Not yet.
Just
No, not
curiously.
yet. And like even reading through, the only one I could see being a little iffy is the Wizard Tower one, just because it deals with garrisons and the garrison rules are a little eh.
I
But
love stupid Wizard Tower.
I know you do.
I'm
Well,
not
maybe
saying it's the best, but I'm in love with how dumb it is. I'm gonna
we should.
ask Will with Fire Slayers versus Nurgle, two super slow armies. Like, hey,
Uh,
do you want to
uh,
you want to fight over Wizard Towers? And I guess,
uh,
well, he doesn't have wizards, so it's not quite as fair. So it's quite
that
as
was,
fun.
what you should do is you should do Zombie Sam's Soulblight versus just foot grots, um, mushroom boys. What are they
Golden
called?
Spaghettis.
Yes, yeah, and then you're just constantly bringing them all back next to their towers with 1,000 bodies,
Yeah,
and just you
sounds
want your
awful.
24-hour stream.
There
There's
it
your
is.
24-hour stream.
We might have to like throw up like a dice roller on the screen rather than to roll the dice so that we ever finish. Oh man, good times. Well, I will call it here. Thanks for joining us. Let us know what you think. Did we get your faction right? Did we get it wrong?
Hmm?
Comment below, and I would love to chat with you and let you know like or be informed. More importantly, about what I missed on because I'm going to be looking at this because this is the most helpful thing I've ever done as far as prepping myself for like going up into a tournament and knowing like these are the things that I need to be looking out for on the other armies because this is what they're gonna try and do that I can't stop, and this is what I can. So if I miss
Fair.
those, let me know because I would like to update this. And if you're interested, let us know, and I will post it as like a little document where you can take it to your tournament, and then you'll have a little lookup doc saying this is what the army can do, this is what they are going to struggle with. So when they pick one of those yellow or red battle tactics, you know that you've got a lot of play in to try and stop it. So anyway, thanks for joining
So, yeah.
us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.